Okay, so we are live right now. This is very, very exciting to be on the RJ Facebook group with thousands of Jewish young people that are on Shidduchim. Very fortunate to be here. And I would be honest, my wife normally joins me whenever I talk about dating. And I think that the reason why we do this is because it makes us so much more relatable in terms of not just having a man speaking, but having my wife as well involved and giving her view and really sharing our opinions. No one's an expert because everyone's got their own experiences. But there is the beauty of Judaism and the Torah, which can direct us in so many ways to having the right direction in doing things in the right way. And that's what we're going to be doing today, really talking about this topic of, is there really such a thing as a perfect match? Is there such a thing as a perfect match? So I want to tell you that before we even ask, is there such a thing as a perfect match? We need to ask, is there such a thing as a perfect marriage? And the truth is, what is a perfect marriage? I'll tell you. This is what people think is a perfect marriage, is where you have a couple in a home, each doing the things that they need to do and want to do whenever they want. Each eating and living in a way that's the way it always was, just very comfortable. Now you have somebody to accompany you. That's called a perfect marriage. But the truth is that really a perfect marriage? What we think as something as perfect isn't always so perfect. When you have a couple in a perfect scene where they're not really speaking to each other, there's no communication, there's not much of sitting down together, just each person's doing their own thing and they have their own time for their own thing, that's not called a perfect marriage. That's just called two people sharing the same home, the same space, but it's not necessarily a perfect marriage. Let me give you another example. Perfect child. What's a perfect child? I'll tell you what's a perfect child. This is what people think. A child that's quiet in the corner and is always silent whenever you need him to be silent. Whenever you need him to eat, he'll eat all the food you ask him to eat, or she. And whenever they sit down exactly the way you said. And they're quiet otherwise. They don't say a word unless you say something in response. They won't say a word. Is that a perfect child? Is that a perfect child? I don't know. I don't think that's a perfect child. I'll tell you the truth is, in such a case, maybe I would say it's a child that's alone and maybe even needs help. Because a perfect child is a child that communicates, a child that's involved, a child that's there. That's a perfect child. Let me give you another perspective. What we think as a perfect relationship sometimes, or a perfect marriage, or a perfect child, is really how we want them to be for me, not necessarily how we want them to be for the relationship. A perfect child in my eyes is a silent child that's in the corner just doing his own thing and never bothering me because it's good for me. But that's not necessarily a normal child. A normal child is someone that's always moving around and doing their thing. The same would be in terms of a relationship. A perfect relationship, we might say, is a couple that share the same home, and they share bills and they share kids, and they are able to do whatever they want in their own time and in their own space. But the truth is, that's just a couple, two people sharing the same house, two people sharing the same bills, two people sharing kids. They might be married in document on paper, but if there's no real relationship involved in that marriage, then it's not perfect. It's perfect in a way that you're both comfortable and you're able to do your own thing, but there's not communication. So a perfect marriage is actually imperfect. a perfect child in ways that we perceive it as perfect is actually imperfect. And that's a very important message, because in life, we think in dating as well, I need to look for this perfect spouse. And the truth is, no one is perfect. When I'm 20, I hope that I'm going to become better by the time I'm 80. That's the part of life, right? We come into this world very beautiful, and we have a lot of perfections, but there's lots of that we need to work on. They say that when a child's born, their fists are closed because they want to take. And when they grow older, they start wanting to give. And eventually, when a person leaves this world, the hands are open, because our aim to be in this world is to come as a taker and eventually leave as a giver. So a perfect relationship is something where I'm actually communicating, where I'm actually with someone and I'm talking. It's not always going the exact way I want it, but there's communication. It's not a perfect relationship, right? Perfect is actually imperfect. A world, look, in Judaism, you look at the history of all our rabbis from the beginning, from Adam, the first thing he did is made a mistake, because humanity is not perfect. That's part of what marriage is to perfect us. So another thing that we need to think about when it comes to seeing, because this is about dating, but first we need to realize that if marriage is not perfect, and marriage will not be perfect, then how can dating be perfect in terms of having this perfect spouse if it's never going to be perfect in marriage in itself? Because humans are not perfect. This also goes into another concept, which is the concept of love. What is love? What is love really? Our rabbis teach us that ahava, the word for love, is the same gematria, is the same numerical value as echad, 13. The numerical value of both of those is 13. Why? Because that is what love is. How you get to love is through giving. That's what we talk about a lot. It's through focusing on the virtues, on the good side of that person. That's true. But the actual love is echad, oneness. It's when you're one with the other. I don't hate my arm, and one arm doesn't get all upset with the other arm. It's oneness. That's love. Love is the experience of oneness, where you expand yourself to a point where the other is part of you. Now that oneness needs to be worked on constantly. We constantly work on that oneness. There's sometimes where it gets hurt and we try and strengthen it. Sometimes where it's something's bothering our oneness. There's always ways that we try and strengthen that oneness, but that's what ahava is. Ahava is echad. It's the oneness. Now, how do you get there? That's through giving. How do you get to that oneness? That's through focusing on the virtues of the other. What are the good values of that person that's in front of me, right? How do we, like we say, v'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha. Maimonides says the same way you have to love Hashem. How do you love Hashem? You focus on the good things He's done to you. He's done chesed to you. He's created you. He's involved in you every second. Your heart is pumping every second. At every second, you are being fed with love. It says, we are surrounded with chesed. Literally, it's chasing after me. Goodness and kindness is chasing after me all my life. We don't see it because we get used to it, but the fact that my heart is constantly pumping is an absolute abundance of love and goodness every second. And the bacteria that my body is fighting, we are constantly thrown at with love. So the way you get to love is through focusing on the virtues of someone, the good points of that person, not their body necessarily. That's something that can help you. You have to recognize that this is a good, attractive person, but you also have to, one of the things that I talk about to people that are dating is, yes, we need to focus on the attraction, but make sure that you're also attracted to the virtues of the person, because the attraction, physicality changes over time. That's a way to getting into the person. It's a way to bringing people together is attraction. That's just chemistry. That's physical chemistry. But the virtues are things that you need to write down. Am I attracted to the virtues of this person as well? It's such an important aspect of dating. So that is what love is. Love is when you include the other as part of yourself. And that's what we want to achieve. Now, you work on it throughout your lifetime. It's not like you just have that oneness straight away. You might feel it, but then it gets hurt. Things change. There's financial issues. There's differences in views. There's differences. There's always going to be two different people, two different views. That's how it's going to be in marriage. And if it's like that in marriage, and the echad, the oneness, is always challenged, and you constantly need to work on that oneness, then all the more so when it comes to dating, we need to believe that no one's perfect. Now, that being said, that leaves us with a big question. If no one is perfect, then how do I know if the person that I'm dating is the right one? That's the big question now that we're left with. How do I now know if that person's the right one for me? You hear that? Anyone who's watching, let us know where you are. I'd love to see your names and what you're doing. Where are you? Where are you watching this from? We'd love to hear your comments or see what you're thinking about what I'm saying. But do you guys get what I'm saying? If already in marriage it's not perfect, and no one is perfect, all the more so when dating, you have to know that you're never going to stand in front of a perfect being. It's just not normal, because they're human, and humans are not perfect. Their views are not going to be perfectly in harmony with you, because they've lived in a different place. Everyone get that? You see that? Hi. Baltimore, that's so nice. Well, welcome. I'm here in LA, Los Angeles, London. It's beautiful. We have here people from all over the world on this group. This is unbelievable. This is so, so nice. So if already a marriage cannot be perfect or automatic, all the more so, hi everyone, all the more so when it comes to dating, we are not perfect. Now, I want to go and jump in, because this leaves us with a big question. If marriage is not perfect, and everyone's not perfect, right? When you see a 15-year-old kid, when you see a 20-year-old, a 25-year-old, everyone has in their mindset that they need things. They are working on themselves. At some point, I want to become better. Everyone is thinking that in the back of their mind. Like, my life, okay, I'm 25, I'm still growing. Everyone says that about themselves. So when you're dating, you have to recognize that I am still growing. That person is still growing. This is such a key to dating, is to know that we are both going to be growing. And that is the most important thing. Thank you. Oh, thank you. We are grateful for this. Oh, thank you. My energy is good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm not sure if my energy is good enough, or maybe I should be Baruch Hashem. Anyway, so this is the big question. So how, obviously, now obviously there are red flags when it comes to dating. That's for sure. There are red flags, and you have to see if there's compatibility, if there's attraction. No question about it. And I understand that for some people it takes longer to find the right one. It's all a miracle, this whole thing of finding the right one. And for some people it takes longer, some people it takes shorter. There's no question about it. We're not saying that some people are picky or more picky or less picky. There's no question about it. But one thing is for sure, that at some point the person that gets married and decides to tie the knot, decides to get on one knee, is jumping in to the river. He's taking a leap of faith. At some point, no matter how well you know this person, you still haven't been married to them. You can't be married before you get married. You can't have a marriage before you're married. It just doesn't happen. So at some point, whenever that proposal comes, there's going to be this what we call leap of faith, that there's a limit to how much I know of this person, and I trust them. I trust everything that I've done and what we've spoken about. And I can see now that there is an ability for us to build a family together. I've seen the family. I've seen everything about them. I've spoken so much. But there's always going to be that element of what we call jumping into the river. How do I know this? This is from the Dead Sea. When the Jews split the sea, God says, listen, if you want the sea to split, you've got to first jump in. Nachshon ben Aminadav, he was the first amazing guy to jump in to the Dead Sea. So that's what we need to do in marriage, because it says that marriage is like the splitting of the sea. Kasher kikriyat yam suf. It's like the splitting of the sea. And one of the things about splitting the sea was it didn't just happen. You had to jump in first. The whole thing's a miracle. But first, you've got to jump in. So if another discussion will be, what constitutes of a real red flag? That's for sure. That needs to be another discussion. Maybe another time we can do that. But jumping in, the concept of jumping in is for sure real. And that's because I know, what does it mean I jump in? I know that the person in front of me is not perfect. I know that I am not perfect. But through marriage, we're going to grow together into becoming the perfection that we need to be. Because that is, by the way, the point of marriage. One of the main points of kiddushin, of marriage, is sanctification. Just like any other mitzvah. We have 613 mitzvot. All of them are there to improve me, to make me a better person. Hello, Moshe. Hi, Rivka. I see some comments over here. Nice to have you guys all here. Please comment if you have any questions or thoughts that you want to share with us here. Yep, jumping in at the deep end, that's what needs to happen at some point. No matter how much you think you know the person, you will be jumping in at some point before you do get married. Anyone else out there? Are you listening? Where are you in the world right now? We'd love to hear some of our Jewish brothers and sisters and talk about dating. Come on, let's go, guys. Got to get some people married. So no one is perfect. That's my real theme of today. Is there such a thing as a perfect match? And the answer is no one is perfect. And that's the whole point of marriage in the first place. Marriage is to make me become a better person, just like all the other mitzvot. Every mitzvah that I do, I put tefillin, I pray. They're all there to elevate me. And especially kiddushin. Kiddushin comes from the word to being holy. Nisu'in is another word for marriage, to lift myself up. So the whole essence and the whole point of marriage is to elevate me in many ways. So that means that I'm not so perfect before I get married. And even with marriage, I'm not perfect. And my aim is to always perfect myself. Never get perfect. One of the names in this week's Torah portion is Yisrael for the Jewish people. Why? Because he fights with God and with people. What does it mean you fight with God? You fight nonstop to do the right thing. That's a Jew. Consistently, every day, to try and become a better person. Doesn't mean you fight with him and you get angry with him. It means you fight to do the right thing. Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam. 7 times you fall and you get up. You keep fighting to do the right thing. Keep fighting, keep fighting. That is the... Hello, Ilan. Nice to meet you here on this live show that we're doing. I hope you guys are enjoying this. We are talking about the fact that no one is perfect, but we have to constantly grow. And if life is about consistency, that's the name, the essence of Yisrael, is to fight for mankind and people, fight with God and with people. What does it mean? You fight constantly to do the right thing with people and with God. That's what it means to be a Yisrael. This is this week's parsha, this week's Torah portion. And that's what we're trying to do. And the part of perfection is through marriage in itself. That's such an important part of becoming a better person at the end of our life. That's why it's called Nisu'in and Kiddushin. And by the way, this is one of the reasons that people get pulled into a date with somebody that's not really for them. Why would somebody date someone that's not for them? One of the reasons is because they're trying to wait for that perfect moment. They're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for this perfect moment, and they don't see it. Now, sometimes you've got to dive in. Sometimes you've got to pull out. But there is no marriage before marriage. That's really the essence here. There's no place where you can actually be perfect without marriage. That's part of what marriage is. So that's generally the theme of what we're talking about today. I see you sent a message. Stop waiting to be perfect version of yourself. Exactly. In order to marry, you don't have to be the perfect version of yourself, but it's to recognize, that's what we're saying here, that both he and I are not perfect. Now, what do you do then? I'm not perfect. She's not perfect. The aim is that as long as you're both moving in the right direction to becoming together a better person, as long as that is actually involved in the person in front of you, then that is already a very good indicator that this is a person that is for you. Because no two people are the same level. There's some people that date a girl that could date a guy that's from a much more religious background, and he comes from a place that always kept Shabbat, and she is slowly doing Shabbat. So they're growing together. As long as you see that the one that grew up with Shabbat is happy about it and is going in that direction, and somebody who's not so involved with Shabbat is also going in that direction, you can make this relationship work. If there's two people, no two people are the same in terms of religiousness, in terms of personality, no two people are the same. But as long as they're both moving in towards the same direction, then that's somebody that you can both eventually get married with. Hello, welcome. Hi, Justina. And I see Alison here. This is unbelievable. Thank you all for watching this. This is so meaningful. Hopefully we could do this more often with Shira, so you can have a amazing woman's perspective as well. But that is the general theme. Now, I do want to say something else. The reason why I made this actual talk, the reason why I decided to talk about this is because recently I've heard this a lot. It's mainly from guys where they say that, there's no such thing as finding a good-looking guy who also has really good virtues. That's what I hear a lot, is how do I find a guy that's also really good-looking? A guy looking for a girl or a girl looking for a guy. How do I find somebody who's good-looking and with good virtues? How do I find that? Normally what people say is, I only find if she's this is what a lot of guys tell me, if she's good looking, she won't be the personality that I'm looking for. If she has a good personality, she's not the type of look that I'm looking for. This is something I hear a lot from guys, especially. It can happen from girls as well, but there's that language of, if she's the right look, she's not going to be the right person with the right virtues. And if he's the right virtues, he's not going to be the right person with the right looks. This is the kind of language I hear. Now, one of the reasons that happens, by the way, is because of our culture. Our culture today has objectified very much the way we look at people. We don't look at people necessarily for who they are today. We look at people for what they have. Oh, I like the bag that person was wearing. I like that even their looks is not who they are. It's something they have, but it's not who they are, right? My body is not who I am. It's something I have. So even when we focus on the look, that's an important aspect, which will bring me towards getting close to that person, because without attraction, I'm going to have nothing. But I need to, at the end of the day, look and see who that person really is from inside. What are their virtues? Are they kind? Are they someone that's calm? These kind of questions. What are their virtues that I'm attracted to? These are the questions I need to be asking But unfortunately, when a guy walks in the room or a girl walks in the room, in our culture, right? Our culture would say first is like, what's the reason that we're all looking at this person? Is it because of who they are? Well, I don't even know their name. A girl walks into a bar. 5 guys are watching. They all turn their eyes. They don't know her name. They just see that there's someone who's attractive. If they were, unfortunately, excuse me for saying this, but if for any reason they had to be in a wheelchair the next day and they would walk into that room, the guys wouldn't look at them the same. It's literally very objectified. And that's what we've done. So in our culture, Judaism tries and helps us to avoid that. We definitely appreciate looks and attraction, definitely. But identifying somebody by their looks and by their attraction, by their body parts, is definitely not something which we should be doing, because that's not who they are. So one of the things that we have today is people that are in their own homes or in their own space, and they are exposed to this idea. I'm going to say this in a very simple terms, but there's a vision that we create for ourselves through the life that we're living. There's a vision of how exactly I want somebody to look. There's this vision that we create for ourselves, which is objectified, and there's nothing wrong with having certain attraction, but because we have access to pictures and visions all the time of things, the objectifying of somebody has come so at the forefront of looking at people, because that's the vision. In our homes, from our screens, we always have this picture of what somebody needs to look like. And when we actually come to real life, where we actually see someone face to face, then we expect to have that perfect picture like we see on the online or in our own space or in our own minds. And really, the truth is that to getting somebody who's really attractive and somebody with good virtues can actually take time. This is real. Sometimes I've spoken to people that they've told me that at first they didn't realize the attraction of the person, but over time they realize that this person really, really is very, very attractive. We are very visual these days. That's exactly the point here. We are very visual, and I'm also referring to terms of people exposing themselves to explicit types of content as well. That can also extremely, not just from a religious perspective, but that can also extremely avoid us from having the ability to look at the person when we actually meet them in a non-objective way and really see them for who they are from the inside, and not just about how they are on the objectified way of looking at them. So what we need to recognize is that when I meet someone in real life, there is something called time. Now, there are, let's say from 1 to 10, if the attraction to somebody is 1 to 5 and you really just feel like there's no attraction at all, then it's very hard to work on that and develop that into something which will be attractive over time. But we're talking about, between 5 and 10, there's this level where you can actually move that attraction up through looking and seeing the virtues of the person. There is this concept of meeting somebody and over time learning them, learning who they are, and actually building that attraction as well. That's real, different to how it would be in the way that we are visually in our own space, in our own minds. And that's something that needs to be taken into account as well when talking about this perfect vision of a relationship. What is a perfect match? It's not necessarily how it is in your mind and how it is on the screen and in how everything is so visual. When it comes to reality, real world, it's a whole new ball game. And you're now facing the virtues of the person, their name, where they're from, their life story. Now you're connecting emotionally to their story, not just to a picture. And it's a whole new vision. And that's something that needs to be approached in a different way. We need to work on that. So in general, this has been the topic of today. Is there really such a thing as a perfect match. And we started off by saying that even in marriage, there is no such thing as a perfect marriage. Part of marriage is to make myself perfect. In fact, a perfect marriage is imperfect. Because do you know what a perfect marriage looks like? It looks like two sides, a couple on one side of the room, the wife is on one side of the room, the husband is on the other side, and they are not communicating. Whenever they need something, they say, hello, can I have that? Thank you. And they move back to their own space. I'm doing my thing. You're doing your thing. Well, I've got news for everybody. That's not called a healthy, perfect marriage. It might seem like a perfect marriage. It's imperfect. Perfect child is also what we think as perfect is really an imperfect child. A perfect child sitting in the corner doing nothing. And only when I ask him to speak to me, he comes to speak to me. Otherwise, he's still and doesn't move. A child needs to act like a child, run around, be active. That's a real child. So a perfect child in our eyes might actually be an imperfect child. It needs to be perfect for them, not perfect for me, for my comfort. And in terms of a relationship, if marriage is not perfect, then all the more so in a relationship, it will not be, in dating as well, it will not be a perfect person. And that left us with a big question of how do I know if I'm marrying, if according to Judaism, no one's perfect, then how do I know if I'm seeing the right person? And the answer we said is jumping in. There are red flags that we need to discuss about on another time, but at the end of the day, it's about jumping in. At some point, I need to jump in, like Nachshon ben Aminadav did when he jumped in to the river of the Dead Sea, in order for the sea to split. For miracles to happen, for the marriage to happen, someone needs to jump in and dive in, because there is no way of knowing you fully. There's no way of being married to you before I get married to you. We also discussed the fact that that is the point of marriage in itself, which is Kiddushin and Nisuin. And one of the reasons that people date wrong is because they are waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for that perfect moment, and it can never come. And they can end up spending 5 years, 6 years dating somebody, all in the name of waiting for that perfect moment. Well, perfection is never going to come because we are not perfect. We aim and fight our lifetime to become perfect, but we are not perfect. And then we also spoke about ahava, love. Love is oneness. Oneness in coming one with somebody else. That's what love really is. That's the experience. If somebody asks you, what is love? It's echad. Same numerical value, which is 13. Oneness is the feeling that you have when you're in love. You feel this, you can't explain it. You ask somebody, what do you feel when you're in love? You can't explain it, but it's literally what it is you feel this absolute oneness with the other. You can expand yourself and include the other as you. It's she is me, he is me, we are one. That's what a relationship is. That's what love is. Now, how do you get there? How do you get to that oneness? That's through focusing on the virtues of the person. And it's through focusing on giving to that person. If I constantly take for myself, I'm not going to get to that oneness. But if I'm giving to this person, I will get to oneness with them. So that's the talk for today. Thank you. Hi, Ilan. Nice to see you. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Do you guys have any questions? Maybe we'll leave some time here for some questions in case anybody does have something that they want to ask. Please feel free to write your post. Hopefully I can see it. I think I can. The last post here is from Ilan. Hi, Ilan, sorry. And Shira said, hi, Justina. Hi, guys. Welcome all. And thank you all for watching. Do you have any questions? Are there any thoughts? Anything on your mind that you would like to share? I'd love to know before we finish. But it's always important for you guys to know. You can also go on to the Effective Dating series, search that on YouTube, and you can find me and my wife's previous seminar that we did. It was a 3-month seminar, so there's 12 classes there, each for about an hour long, and you hear people asking questions. Me and my wife, Shira, and we speak about all this stuff in terms of dating. We make it really, really relatable. And it's very, very important stuff that we need to constantly talk about. Here's another question. How can we tell between a red flag and an imperfection? That is a really, really good question. Very individual, I believe. It's really, really individual. I believe that there's a number of things here. Yeah, it's so individual. There's so much to think about. But is this consistent? Is this something that's consistent by the person? That's something that we need to give it time for. Find out if this is a consistent, repetitive behavior. There's certain things like anger that I'm not even married to you yet, right? So anger is something that needs to be really, really considered about. If it's extreme levels of anger, that's something that's really, really dangerous. I think that that's a very serious red flag. There's a red flag of not taking you seriously. That's a red flag. Maybe they're dating someone else, or they're not taking you seriously. They're not focused on you. I think that that's really, really important. It needs to be spoken about. But that's not an imperfection, because that's not a personality issue. That's just them with me. They're not taking me seriously. So that needs to be figured out. Like, what's going on? Why are you not taking this seriously? Flaking all the time. That kind of language. An imperfection could be, there's so many examples, not perfectly neat, like you want him to be. You always dreamed of this clean guy, perfectly clean guy. He's clean, but he's not, there's thousands of things. He's not scientifically aware of things. And that's okay. So he's not knowledgeable in some areas. You don't have to know everything. Maybe he'll learn. But a person said to me once, I have a problem. She's amazing, but she doesn't know about Darwin and things like that. That's just knowledge. Knowledge isn't the virtues. It's something that person has. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's who they are. So there's certainly the type of job that they have. It's not a perfect job that I dreamed of. These are all imperfections, and we have to think past them. There's something that you need to fold at some point when you date somebody, because I recognize that this person has this and this and this, and they're valuable and they're good. A really, really good guy. A really good guy. So he's not a doctor. Fine, but he's a really respectful, nice, loving, caring guy. That's amazing. Don't think that I need to now see everything else perfect. No, you're getting a really nice guy. Don't throw that person away. A really nice girl, really respectful, loving, kind. That's important. You need that. Don't think that I need her to be perfect in all other aspects of life for me, because that needs to fit my dream. There are things that you will need to fold on when it comes to marriage, for sure. Anyway, that's my rant. 38 minutes. Yes, there is a link on YouTube as well. You guys can all see our video live on YouTube as well. Please feel free. And if you really like this, send a message to the RJ group admin saying you would love this to happen again. And we can make this happen again. Maybe, hopefully, not maybe, it will be Bezat Hashem. Next time with Shira, maybe it will be beautiful. But this is the general idea. Thank you so much for listening and for being involved and for commenting. Thank you all. It's been beautiful. And looking forward to next time. Thank you. Hopefully, this is a blessing to everyone that's been watching and will be watching. You all find the one you dream of very soon. May they be perfect in their virtues. May they be perfect in their looks. But always remember that perfection is an imperfection. There is no such a thing as a perfect human being, and perfection is an imperfection. And that's it. Thank you so much. All right. We'll see you then later. Thank you.